I'm Shannon Van House, diabetes educator at Claxton-Hepburn, and welcome to another episode of 25 Feeds 5.
This morning we're here with Amanda Hitterman, Executive Director of the Foundation and Community Relations, and Steve Hawes. And Amanda is going to be our guest chef today.
So today I will be making a chickpea curry with fragrant rice and roasted vegetables.
Sounds delicious.
So we've already started with our rice. We're using a long grain brown rice, and to that rice you prepare it according to package directions, but you're going to add at least 3 tablespoons of turmeric, and Chin is going to tell us about the health benefits of turmeric.
Turmeric. So turmeric is one of the Middle Eastern, a spice used a lot in Middle Eastern cooking. It's anti-inflammatory. A lot of times people are taking it when they have arthritis. It also has some benefits that have been shown to prevent dementia. So lots of good antioxidants, anti-inflammatory properties to turmeric.
And what I care about is it tastes good. So when you're using it with a long grain brown basmati rice, which also has a fragrance to it, this adds just another dimension of flavor, and it's an easy way to get your dish just hiked up a notch. Super easy. You just stir it in and you're done and boil. So that's going on right now, again, according to package directions, and now we will be prepping our vegetables for roasting. So our next step is going to be roasting our vegetables. So I have just a baking sheet here. We have the oven on and ready to go. I'm gonna pour a little bit of olive oil on, and with a piece of paper towel, in case you do not have a basting brush, just rub it on in.
Makes it super simple.
Yep.
Now, how do you decide which vegetables to use?
I just like these.
Okay.
Cauliflower is traditionally used in South Asian cooking. So it's Indian inspired. There's a lot of cauliflower curries, etc. It's used in a lot of dishes. Broccoli just adds some color. I hate a beige plate, and we already have a lot of beige going on. It's also my son's favorite vegetable, and this is one of his favorite preparations. He's 8, so if my 8-year-old, who pretty much only eats beige, is eating this, we're good to go.
Yeah, broccoli is actually one of the few vegetables that actually has a lot of protein in it, as well as all the other nutritional properties.
And we are preparing what could be a vegetarian, and if we eliminate butter, a vegan dish. So this is just a great way to add a little bit more protein and make it more filling. So we have about 2 heads of broccoli and 1 head of cauliflower in here, diced into florets. Don't feel bad if you're busy and you buy the prepackaged. Please don't. So I bought prepackaged. It's slightly more processed, not by you, but if you rinse it, take care of it, it's still a whole food. We're gonna take some extra virgin olive oil. I'm gonna pull my Rachel Ray and just bloop, 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 bloop. In here I have garam masala, which is a bunch of spices put together that's frequently used again in South Asian cooking. So you have your coriander, cloves, chili powders. You have a lot of stuff in here already. So
It smells really good.
Yeah, we're gonna put this all over. And then, excuse me, I'm going to toss this. We are gonna add a little bit of salt to this when we get it on the pan. And if you notice your veggies are a little too dry or the seasoning isn't sticking, you can always add a little bit more olive oil into this, which I probably will. In this particular mixture, you can really smell some of the cinnamon in it too, which is nice.
Did you buy that already made up?
I did, but you can make it yourself. There's different recipes available on the internet. But it's kind of easier just to go get the bottle.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not, I'm a frequent user of it, so it wouldn't be a big deal.
Right.
But if you're only gonna do it a little bit, it's not worth the expense. And frankly, the most expensive ingredients in this recipe are the spices. You can get the base vegetables and the base canned goods for very little money. If you're smart, you can get them for about $10. It is the spices that really take this up to the next level, but are the most expensive part. But the good thing about investing in spices is that you can keep using them again and again. So you can do quick, simple recipes like this that have really full depth of flavor over and over for very minimal cost.
Yeah, a lot of your spices also are nutritional powerhouses as well.
So we are gonna take just a little bit of salt, probably half a teaspoon, maybe less, and just sprinkle that on. And also cooking with salt with vegetables helps draw out some of the moisture and adds to the crispness. And we're just gonna stick these in the oven really until they're done to your likeness. My family prefers them pretty well done, so like a nice crispy vegetable.
What do you have the oven set at?
350, I'll probably turn this up a little bit as we
Okay.
go, knock it up to 400. It's usually about 20 to 25 minutes. You will have to stir, just check them occasionally. So we'll pop this up to 400 and we will set our timer. I'll check them at about 15. There we go. And now we'll move on to prepping our curry. So the first thing we're gonna do to prepare our curry is use some butter. If you'd like to make this a completely vegan dish, you could use olive oil instead. And Shannon's gonna let you know a little bit about butter.
Yep, so butter is, you know, it does have saturated fat in it, but in moderation, it's okay to use a little bit of butter. It's part of, you know, you can balance it out. It also has less ingredients than, say, some margarines that have a lot of, you know, hydrogenated oils and things like that.
I'm also using unsalted butter because I like to control the amount of salt that I'm putting into the food, so this is even less ingredients than the traditional butter. I do it if you are baking or cooking. Unsalted butter is usually a better option because, again, you can control the salt content in your food, and we are adding salt to make things cook properly. So we're going to get this to melt down, and we are going to brown half a white diced onion, and I do a nice small dice on this. I do a small dice because I can fool younger people that don't like onions into eating them. Traditionally, this wouldn't be as small. This isn't about authenticity.
It's about making it palatable sometimes.
Yes, this is about fooling young mouths.
And onions are great too because they are also anti-inflammatory. They are, you know, low carb, high fiber, really good, and a great addition of flavor to any dish.
So while this browns, I'm going to talk to you about what we're going to be adding into it. And we don't need these to be caramelized. We just want them to start turning, to be soft, to be translucent, just a hint of yellow. Once they hit that stage, we're going to add, this is diced garlic. It's a lot of garlic, and that's okay. You can flavor this to your choice. I am probably going to use the equivalent of 6 or 7 cloves in this because that's what I like. You can use more or less. And we're gonna reserve some of this for the next stage in our recipe. You can just use several tablespoons full of pre-made curry powder. That's what I have here. If you want to add a little bit more depth of flavor, there's other things you can do. I'm going to be adding, not all of this, but quite a bit of turmeric again. In this container, I have a mixture of a lot of paprika, because I like that bright orange, and it gives a nice sweet and spicy. And this has a little bit of chili powder in it, so this is about 2 tablespoons of paprika to 1 of chili powder. I have a little bit of coriander in here, and just a wee bit of the garam masala to add.
It sounds like you can really just kind of do it to taste.
Correct. You can make this as personal as you want. And truly, I have done it with just this. So I have done it with the pre-made curry powder. It's fine. It's again about your depth of flavor. So as you can see, these are starting to cook down. I don't add the garlic at the same time as the onions because the garlic is such smaller pieces that you will destroy it. So you'll actually burn out the flavor that you're looking for. When we put the garlic in, we just want the garlic to become fragrant and not to brown or burn. So you're just letting it hit the pan and get hot before you add your sauces to it. We're also going to cook the spices, which is something you don't see in a lot of, I think, Western cooking. Like you're just, you know, throwing it in
at the end.
This, we want to cook them because the cooking does a roasting process and really enhances that flavor. It brings it out. You'll smell the difference, and smell and taste are pretty much the same thing. You taste the difference as well. So now I'm adding just copious amounts of garlic. Again, this is not something that you need to do if this is not your preference.
Yeah, garlic and onion are actually members of the same family, the allium family, and they're nutrition powerhouses. They're anti-inflammatories. They have a lot of different kinds of vitamins and minerals that you don't find in other fruits and vegetables. They also add a lot of flavor.
So I have this on medium-high heat. I am cooking it maybe 30 seconds until I get that
Smells
wok.
delicious.
Yes, the smell turns from sharp to almost sweet, and then you know it's time to add all your stuff. So now we are going to sprinkle. This is about 4 tablespoons of curry powder. sprinkling about a teaspoon of garam masala, half teaspoon of coriander, and then again, just my obscene amount of paprika with about a tablespoon of chili powder.
I really love all the spices you're using in this recipe.
And just a lot. I might actually end up using all this turmeric. It depends on the color that I start seeing.
It's like I said earlier, I mean, spices are just, they're full of nutrition and antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, they're flavor, they add a lot of flavor to things, and they're really fun to experiment with.
So you can see, and then you can also smell the difference when these, you want to keep these moving. We're not using a lot of fat. Traditionally, you would use a lot more butter to cook these, so we got to keep them moving so they don't burn. But we want that bouquet to come out. You start smelling the difference. It's hard to explain until you experience to be like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Oh man, I'm just gonna
Go for it.
I'm just going for it because that's what I like.
Yeah, it smells awesome. You've gone from smelling the garlic and onion now to just, I don't know, a whole aroma of scents.
Okay, and then we are going to start adding our tomato products. So I'm using fire roasted. Again, not a traditional choice, but one because we're cutting out some fats that adds just another depth of flavor. And a little wee can of tomato sauce.
This is all stuff you can get right at Save-A-Lot.
Yeah, almost all of this is from Save-A-Lot. You can also get...
now it smells totally different.
Because it adds a sweetness.
But yeah, Save-A-Lot is one of our sponsors for this cooking demonstration, so we want to make sure we thank them for their support, and Blue Cross Blue Shield for their generous funding.
Sometimes your spices, you won't have as much regular availability, like I did have to go get stuff, but Price Chopper for the most part will have a lot of the spices that you need. You shouldn't have any problem.
Natural food store too.
Yep, natural food store.
Sometimes Aldi's does too.
Yep, Food Co-op, Aldi's has really great, really reasonable spices and has organic versions too. Oops, I just splattered. Sorry, Steven. Our last ingredient, actually it's not, but almost last for the actual curry sauce, we're just going to add some coconut milk. If you don't like coconut flavor, this doesn't really get coconutty. But you could use a dairy alternative. However, if you're not using heavy cream, it is gonna separate and look a little funny. And that kind of defeats some of the health purposes. So it's about measuring and seeing what's important in that meal.
So have you used other kinds of milk before, like almond milk or oatmeal milk, or?
No, this has traditional coconut milk in a can, not coconut milk that you get in the dairy section. Is pretty much, it's the coconut water plus the fruit of the coconut pulverized in it. So it has the coconut cream and everything in it. So it does have a higher fat content than the coconut milk that you would get in the dairy section, but that is what gives it the silky texture in the sauce. And you'll see it's a little chunky right now because things are going to incorporate. And so we will incorporate that over time. We're gonna let this simmer and cook. But first, we're gonna add our protein. So I have 3 cans of drained, rinsed chickpeas that we're gonna be sticking in there. I rinse them and discard the water or the aquavita that is in the containers because I don't like the stickiness it adds to this recipe. You don't need to, there's nutrients in there that you can use. A lot of vegan cooks save that because they whip it and it can be like an egg white substitute. So it does have properties in it. I just don't like it. Some people save it for making hummus. They'll use the aquavita. So up to you. And we're going to talk about some alternatives for chickpeas in this as well.
Yep, chickpeas are a part of the lentils family.
We're just going to stir these in. Sort of. Just very carefully.
Yep, lentils are also a good source of carbohydrates and protein.
And the cool thing about this is if you don't have time, you could pretty much be done in a few minutes. Let this cook a little bit. The texture won't be as smooth, but the flavors will be there. The longer you cook it, the more the chickpeas will absorb the flavor and the silkier the texture of the dish will be. So I'm gonna turn this down. Now it's on at 2. So once this starts actually simmering, I'm gonna let it go for a while. I'll turn it down, and again, the longer it cooks, silkier your sauce will be. So we're going to talk about some alternatives to chickpeas if you don't like them and are still vegetarian. There is the ever popular tofu. I do recommend marinating it overnight first in something to add flavor. Like if you want to toss it in some tandoori seasonings or something and just let it sit overnight in some yogurt. Another alternative that's really easy, simple, and $1 for at least 2 meals for 5 people is lentils. So I do suggest, like, these are great too. A lentil curry is also very traditional and delicious.
Lentils are super versatile too. You can put them in so many things. They're high in fiber. They're also really high in iron and protein. So a lot of people who are vegetarian, you know, trying to find sources of protein and iron can be difficult, but a lot of the legumes have a lot of iron in them.
And take on the flavor of what you're cooking. If you cook a lentil long enough, right before it's mush, but after it's hard, it's delightful. Lentil mush is also pretty good too, and these easily turn into kind of almost, you could stew it and make a very savory stew. Now we're gonna make the sauce for our vegetables, our roasted vegetables. I have some cilantro here, otherwise known as coriander in other places, and a lime. So we're gonna juice the lime, and this is simple, they don't have seeds. Roll, so you break up the fibers in the lime so you can juice it appropriately. This already has coriander on it, which is not a big deal because I'm gonna be putting that in the sauce.
Ooh, there's so many different flavors in this dish. And when you talked about salt earlier, a lot of times when you're cooking with so many different flavors, you don't need to have as much salt to bring out a good satisfying flavor.
So I am using the juice of 1 lime. For those that don't have a microplaner, you can use the small edge of your grater, what you use to grate Parmesan on, and we're gonna get some of the zest off the lime, and you have to be careful because you don't want to go to the white part. The white part is bitter, but a lot of the essential oil of the fruit is in this rind, and you can see it's just like little bitty green things in there. It's easier to do first.
This is a thing that a lot of times we miss when we're juicing something, is how much flavor you get out of the rind.
Yes.
Lemon too.
And see, I'm just barely getting to that white part. You don't want the white part. And you do want to find a fruit that's green. You get more flavor if the fruit is more colorful. I'll actually go in. A lot of it's stuck in there. But if you have a microplaner, you don't need to be as careful. But again, you don't need fancy tools to get fancy results. You can just make do. A little ingenuity and you're fine. Will you check those veggies, Shan? They might need a tossing. Okay, I'm gonna go up in there. And here you can see, like, that is some nice zest in there. I got a little piece of the rind at the end. And now we're gonna chop up some of the cilantro. Really finely dice it. So this has already been washed. And I go in, I protect my fingers. I pull my knuckles back if you don't have a cutting glove. And this doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to do it fast. And then I just make this really small. And we're gonna stick this in. This is probably 1/4 cup, just a little bit less diced.
So some people don't like cilantro. What's something they might be able to use? Can you use parsley? Or
Yeah, I use a flat leaf parsley, not a curly leaf parsley. It's gonna add a different flavor. It's gonna be more bitter, or you can omit. If you don't like it, don't use it.
Yeah, cilantro's either hit or miss.
I love it.
I like it too.
Yeah.
So the veggies might be pretty close to done. They're still maybe a little crunchy, but
Yeah.
They're
This
getting
probably
pretty
have a few
toasty.
minutes.
okay.
And I'm gonna show you the sauce too. See, now that it's kind of started to simmer, it's more universal in color. We see this kind of beautiful neon orange going on. To me, that's delicious. To others, maybe not. We want that to cook. And I'm gonna show you the rice too. So our rice has been going, that's almost done as well. This probably has a minute or two left on it. So now we're going to finish our sauce. I'm using Greek yogurt because where I went I couldn't find just plain. Plain is just as appropriate as long as it's unflavored. I'm using the Total Zero because in the Greek yogurt form you don't see the difference as much. If I was doing a traditional recipe I wouldn't use fat-free, I'd use like a 1% or 2% just to have a little bit of the traditional
creamier.
yogurt. Yes, and you don't need a lot of this. Like this is the sauce for everybody. So I'm gonna put all of this in.
Greek yogurt is also a great alternative for sour cream.
And garlic again. So I'm using quite a bit of garlic. And this is fresh, so you're gonna taste, you know, a different flavor of garlic. And you just really wanna just mush it up. Get it nice and incorporated. And that's done. So for garnish, we're going to have some finely chopped long onions, some lime slices, and some cilantro that's not as finely chopped. So now we just have to wait until things are done. So we're just doing a little check-in on the curry, and you can see the difference in the texture from before. We have a silky smooth texture, even coloring. You can even see the colors change a little bit. That turmeric yellow is coming out, that paprika is orange. And so that's only been about 10-12 minutes since the last time we saw it, and we got a really nice incorporated texture. You can also see the turmeric rice here. So this is done. This is a long grain, whole grain, beautiful yellow color from that turmeric, and a beautiful smell as well. Just waiting on the veggies, and then we can plate up. So just pulled the veggies out. You can see I like them to have a little bit of coloring on there, so we got some crispiness. Just tossing them now. Some of this darkness is also the seasoning, so don't be too intimidated by that. So we're gonna plate this up, and we'll see you soon.
So here's our finished product, our chickpea curry with fragrant rice and roasted vegetables. We have a yogurt sauce on the side, and it's a really nice, well-balanced meal. We've got our carbohydrates in our rice and our chickpeas as well. Also our protein in here, protein in the yogurt, and then of course half of our plate is our non-starchy vegetables.
So about how much rice did we put on this plate, Jen?
We put a half a cup of rice on the plate. And then we probably did about the same with the chickpeas. And then of course a lot of veggies. We've got some protein in the yogurt, so a really, really well-balanced meal, very healthy.
Thank you for coming to this session of 25 Feeds 5. And we're hope to see you again. And thank you for
Thank you to our sponsors, Save a Lot and Excellus.